Stephen, thank you so much for having us today. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Himmel and Meringoff's portfolio and its expansion plans. We spoke to Leslie Himmel about 2 years ago, and she said that you guys were planning on doubling your portfolio in the next 5 to 10 years. Is that still the plan?
Yes, it is. At least that. We're primarily Manhattan and New York City, which means nowadays we just acquired a property in Long Island City. We're looking heavily outside in the boroughs, but primarily the tri-state area with concentration in New York City.
Why do you like Long Island City?
Because that's where the money is. The people who are investing heavily in residential in Long Island City, I believe, are going to create a demographic in which people are going to want to live and work in the same general area. So we think it's a good place to be buying for office and as well as distribution and warehousing.
Do you think that the closing of the L train is actually going to help an area like Long Island City?
It will hurt the city, but I think it may inadvertently benefit Long Island City. I think transportation is a prime driver in Manhattan and in the boroughs. Always has been and always will be. It's why we think that Midtown East is going to have a resurgence and that Midtown West is at a crest. So if there's a sudden lack of transportation, then it's going to benefit areas that have access to transportation.
If we could shift gears a little bit, tell us about how you and Leslie Himmel, I guess, divide your responsibilities here.
In terms of the division of responsibilities, we both do pretty much everything. Leslie's as involved in management as I am, but differently. Every lunch, she's out networking. Every lunch is at my desk, and I'm dealing with the brick and mortar together with my management team. Basically, you could say she's the outside partner and I'm the inside partner, although we both overlap significantly.
Gotcha. One of the things that I had heard was that one of your specialties is also maximizing the value of a property, that this was something that you were very, very good at. I don't know if that's true, but this is what
I would say we're
told.
both equally involved in that. You know, without getting caught in generalization, a good portion of what we do is to buy a property well and right, have a vision of what we're going to do with it going forward. But then along the way, you have to begin to dig in and deal with the physical plant and equipment, the tenancy, and the marketing of that building. And then there's a value creation from the standpoint of how the building is financed and how the financial engineering is structured. But the equity in the buildings are always maintained solely by us. And that's unusual, and it's different. So it's not so much the creation of value. What we do is not unique. We do adaptive reuse. We take B-class properties and make them better. We take C-class properties and make them B-class, and try to facilitate tenant rollovers being minimal and tenant retention being maximal. When you own an office building, if you have to re-tenant your space at the end of every 7 to 10 year lease, you're going backwards in value. So tenant retention is the watchword. And that starts the day you sign the lease and never stops until the day the tenant renews.
Now, I know that Himmel and Meringoff was in the LA market for many years, up until 2011. Tell me about why you wanted to leave.
We owned in Los Angeles for years. Since 1981, we owned 2 of the 4 corners of Hollywood and Vine. We owned the C&M building. We owned 6 buildings downtown. We owned buildings on the West Side. We owned buildings in Hollywood. At one point, we were the largest commercial building owner in Hollywood. Small market.
Sure.
And what we found is that the market never really broke through. It was a more net than gross lease market for a tenant. It was a more short-term than long-term market. We would put in a tenant, do a new TI, find out in 5 years that instead of renewing, they left. And we didn't care for the fundamentals. There has been a resurgence. You know, the Lefrak family has got a tremendous interest in buying in Los Angeles, along with a number of other New York owners, and I wish them well. For us, it was not a market that we wanted to throw ourselves into anymore, so we exited.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with WeWork.
About 5.5 years ago, I met a fellow named Adam Newman. And he was an extraordinary human being. I've met a lot of great people in my life, but he was near the top of that list. He was an inspiration, and he had a vision. And my only question was, could that vision be put into reality? Because I met a lot of people with great visions. We took a bet on Adam. We put him into 3 floors at a building on 28th and Park Avenue South in the very, very early day. And when I went to see the installation they were putting in, I was stunned. I didn't think you could put that many individual glass-walled offices in one space. And I was skeptical, but he filled them and continues to fill them every day. The thing that I believe will be an integral part of WeWork's future sustainability is to do more of what they are doing now, which is to appeal to corporations who may have a division or a use of space that's not 10 years long yet, and afford them the ability to incubate within a WeWork space for a shorter time without having to sign a long lease, which in a way makes them my competitor.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for having us.
You're
We
welcome.
really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, man.